You're losing deals because you're operating in survival mode. And until you get this fixed, you will keep sabotaging every single sale. Let's fix it. See, you can know everything there is to know about sales. You can know all the tactics, have a perfect script. But if you're still selling from scarcity, like if your belief system hasn't upgraded for you to believe that you're worthy of making the amount of money you want and that you're good enough to be able to make that money, I'm telling you, this is where salespeople get blindsided. They've mastered all the techniques and all the skills of like a great salesperson. They've mastered the skill of projecting confidence, but they've never really developed a belief underneath that skill. They've just never done it. It's kind of like an actor who memorizes all the lines, but never really steps into the role. In sales, poverty programming shows up as a hesitation when it's time to ask for the close. It's about discounting your offer, even when the client's never asked for it. We immediately go to dropping the price or withdrawing the moment you feel that, they're giving you that it's too expensive, or maybe you feel like you've pushed too hard. So, you don't want to offend the person. See, most salespeople assume these moments are about nerves, when in fact, they're about rejection of your own true worth. Don't let this fool you. The subconscious mind that holds all of our belief system, the subconscious mind where your self-belief, your self-identity, your self-esteem lives, controls everything you do. It even controls the logic. So you think logically that I would never sabotage my success. I absolutely believe I'm worth, making 6 figures or 7 figures. I absolutely believe the value of my product and the value that I bring. Well, you may say you believe that, but if your results don't reflect that you believe that, if you're hedging, if you're backing off, if you're lowering your prices, if you go in with the strategy of lowering your prices, I'm telling you, if you're taking notes at all, I'd write this down. Belief drives behavior. Because what happens is we begin to reject the version of yourself. You reject the version of yourself of who succeeds. You reject the version of yourself being number one on the leaderboard because you're still bonded to this version of yourself who's trying to play it safe, who doesn't want to stick out in front of the crowd, who doesn't want to shine, who doesn't want to offend people, who really questions their own worth. Are they really worthy? In other words, there's a lot of people who believe that the rich don't pay their fair share, and that if they're rich, if they make too much money, then, they've somehow contributed to poverty of other people. And they get caught up in this, immoral, justice story about, is it fair for them to have more while other people suffer? I'm going to tell you, the best thing you can do for the poor is not be one of them. That's the truth. You want to help poor people? Get rich. Get rich, because you will never be able to help poor people poor. That's for sure. When I was poor, and the basket would come around, I'd put $1 in the basket. Now I write checks for $10,000, $100,000, $1 million to give to a charity. See, I know what it feels like to be trapped by a self-concept that is limiting. I know what it's like and what it feels like to be trapped in a lie of your own story. See, when I was born, I had developed a stutter really bad. My father had left my family when my mom was 3 months pregnant, and my mom was raising 3 other children, 4 kids. But my mom had a really terrible anger problem. My childhood home was not a safe place to be. It wasn't a safe place physically. It wasn't a safe place verbally, emotionally. If some of the things that happened to me were to happen today, she would be in jail. But back then in the 1970s, things were different. And because of that trauma, because of that abuse, I developed a stutter. I spoke like this. It was just post-traumatic stress. It was just anxiety. I was a ball of anxiety because I never knew, when I was going to get the belt or the frying pan or a punch. 3rd grade, I can remember being sent home because I had a black eye, and they knew it didn't come. They knew it didn't come from school. And I told them I had fallen. So I had this really bad speech impediment. And from that, the school labeled me as learning disabled. In the 1970s, if you had a speech impediment, that was considered a learning disability. I wasn't learning disabled. I wasn't learning disabled until they started to program in my mind that I wasn't normal. Please send Paul Martinelli down to the special ed room. And then came all the bullying. Oh my goodness. All the kids would make fun of me. You know how it is. The dominant culture of influence on the playground. The other 5, 6, 7-year-olds, they noticed that there's something different about you. Maybe you were skinny like a beanpole and they made fun of you about that. Maybe you were round and pudgy and they made fun of you about that. Maybe you had freckles. I don't know what it is, but none of us gets off the playground of life alive. And for me, it's just that every time I opened my mouth, I spoke like this, so the kids would have a field. Hey, dummy. Hey, stupid. See, it created a real deep belief inside of me that I was stupid. See, our beliefs are created 2 ways. One is through spaced repetition of time. This is being introduced to an idea or a concept over and over and over again until eventually it takes hold. The other is through an emotional sudden impact. This is when something happens to us, and in that moment, we define that as truth. Not just truth, but our truth. I spent the first half of my life believing that I was dumb and stupid and then I would never amount to anything. And then I went out and I produced results that were in harmony with that belief. I failed out of school at 10th grade. I landed a dead-end job making $4.10 an hour. I started my first company at 22 with $200 and a vacuum cleaner and a mop bucket because I thought any dummy could clean a toilet, and I was any dummy. I didn't realize that I was training the world to value me the same way. I was training the world and giving the world the authority to treat me how I had taught myself to value myself. That way was not at all. Not at all. And really, I can tell you this, if you're unconsciously afraid that success will somehow isolate you or change you or make you unsafe or make somebody else unsafe, like your success somehow hurts other people, I'm telling you, you will sabotage your own growth to protect your self-concept. See, it's called a competing commitment. I faced this, oh my goodness. When I was 22 and I started that cleaning company, I wanted to get rich. Believe me, there was nothing more than I wanted. I had so many problems. I figured, boy, if I could just have a few bucks, it would solve it. But my self-belief was so low. And my belief about rich people was that, rich people got rich by taking advantage of people like me and my family. That the only reason why some people got rich and we were poor was because the system was rigged against us. Maybe the system is rigged. But I can tell you, I've been poor and I've been rich. I don't see it rigged. I know what I pay in taxes as a quote unquote rich person. And it's a lot of money, I can tell you that much. And so what I've realized is that we just never outperform our own self-belief. When I believed that I was poor, when I believed that I deserved to be poor, when I believed that I'd never be able to amount to nothing because I didn't have a formal education, because it takes money to make money, because, nobody in our family had ever done that. Whatever the beliefs, whatever the lie is to hold that belief. And then I have the competing commitment. I want to be rich, but I'm demonizing rich people. I want to be one of them. I want to make the money. Like everybody says, money can't buy you happiness. Well, I found out everybody wants to find that out for themselves. I wanted to find out if money could buy me happiness. I found it could. I didn't realize that this competing commitment, me wanting to be rich and then me demonizing the rich, and these limited self-beliefs were causing me to sabotage my own growth because I was trying to protect my current self-concept. And I'm telling you, you've probably heard yourself say, I want to hit 6 figures this year. And you really meant it. But what you didn't hear is this silent agreement underneath that voice that says, but not if I have to take risks. but not if I have to make people uncomfortable. But not if I have to face rejection. But not if I have it and it causes other people to be poor. This is the competing commitments. This is the old emotional contracts and attachments that we make to avoid risk, to avoid pain, to avoid judgment, to avoid loss. See, for me, as a child of physical and verbal abuse, I developed a skill, a talent, if you think about it, a brilliant learning model of making myself small. I also had this habit of using self-deprecating language. So like I would say really hurtful, negative things about myself to other people. I would say things like, well, when God was handing out brains, I was first in line, but then I had to hold the door for everybody else. Ha ha ha. And people would laugh. But see, the strategy behind that is that if I told you that I was dumb and stupid, you wouldn't have to call me it. This old concept you have. If you're working towards a new goal, what most people try to do is they try to take this new goal and they try to make this new image of themselves fit into the puzzle of the one they're making right now. They're trying to take the habits, the beliefs, the desires, the skills, the talents of this new dream and this new identity, and they're trying to fit it into this old puzzle that they've been building for years. And it doesn't fit. And it doesn't fit because it's not a piece of that puzzle. It's a completely new puzzle because your old puzzle directly competes with your new dream, with this new identity. The old you, your habits today, are competing with the habits that you need to develop to become that new person who can be, do, and have the new thing you want. That's the way it works. And this is the danger of, competing commitments. On one hand, you commit yourself to growth. You commit yourself to this new goal, to becoming this person you want to be. But you're also attached to and committed to your old identity, to all your old habits, all the old belief system. You're committed to not outshining other people. You don't want to be offensive. You're committed to your vision, but you're also equally committed to the old story that says, you'll never be able to do that. Or you're not that kind of person. You're not a pushy salesperson. What this does is it creates an inner conflict. The Bible says that two houses or a house divided against itself cannot stand. It says you can't serve two masters. See, you can't serve this new dream and this new identity while trying to serve the old you and these limiting beliefs and this poor self-image. It creates this inner conflict. And when you're in conflict, your prospect feels it. You don't hide that energy. You broadcast that energy. All you do is broadcast the dominant vibration, the dominant energy that you're in. You know this. You've experienced this. You've met people, they haven't said anything to you, and you think, I don't get a good vibe from this person. You walk into a restaurant, even a restaurant, a hotel, a place of business has a vibe to it, has an energy signature that you feel. You've actually been gifted with an intellectual faculty. It's called intuition. And your intuition, most people think intuition is where where we can receive messages, right? So, we pray to God or we ask the universe and we intuitively wait to be guided. Well, sure, that's one way. It's absolutely a receiving station, but it's also a broadcasting station. As you're receiving the energy signature of the people around you and the people that you're connected to and the beliefs that you're connected to and all the things that you're emotionally attached to, as you're tapping into that energy and you're attracting it into your life, you are broadcasting out the energy of your dominant belief, not what you tell the world you believe, but what you believe. The early Greeks referred to this as your heart of hearts, your sanctum sanctorum. As a man believeth in his heart. They were talking about the physical pump. They were talking about your subconscious mind, your self-identity. So is he, and your prospect feels it. They may not be able to identify it. They may not even know what it is. But what they know is that feeling is not in harmony with what they're looking for. It doesn't build certainty. In fact, certainty disappears. And you leave the room and they say to their colleague, I I just don't get a good, I don't know what it is about him. I just don't get a good vibe. You know what that means? That means I'm consciously aware of your vibration. I don't get a good vibe. I'm consciously aware. And then rapport is broken. And for some reason, you left the meeting and everything was going great. You shook hands, you had a couple of good laughs, everybody got along. You're on the elevator down saying, this one is a done deal. You call back to your husband, your wife, the office. Oh, get ready, we're going to get the Smith account. And then you do exactly like they asked you to do. They said, send over some information, send over the proposal. Let's put it in writing. And you send it over, beautiful cover letter. And what happens? Crickets. All of a sudden, your best friend becomes Casper, the friendly ghost. You don't hear from him. And a couple of days later, you say, hey, Jim, hey, Mary, just checking to see, if you got the proposal I sent over. Oh, they got it. They got it. They're just not responding to you. They're on to the next person. And you think to yourself, well, oh, geez, they're just not going to buy. Oh, no. They're going to buy. They're just not going to buy from you. See, until you identify and you rewire those internal commitments, those internal beliefs, that internal identity and self-concept, you will keep hitting this invisible ceiling. Not because the opportunity in front of you isn't real, and not because you don't want it, but because the potential cost of you stepping outside of your comfort zone or the risks in you outgrowing your own self-image feels emotionally unsafe. There's an idiom that holds this entire belief system in place, and most people live their life by it. It's called better safe than sorry. Other people say, well, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Don't take a risk. See, if you believe that money is hard to get, like I was programmed that. My grandmother used to tell me, you have to work really hard. You have to make all these sacrifices. And then, like, if you do that, if you do hard work and honest work, then you'll make it. No. You can, trust me, you can work real hard. You can be real honest and struggle. My wife Holly and I are doing a $1 million renovation in our backyard. And every single day, there's 20 guys back there. They're building the big summer kitchen, a big, beautiful gym. And these guys are like, I live in South Florida. It's hot. They're up on the hot roof. They're carrying stuff. These guys are working really hard. But I don't think any of them are accumulating wealth. I don't think any of them are on their way to freedom. I really don't. I don't think any of them are creating the foundation for a life of freedom for themselves and for their families. They're doing honest work, and they're doing really hard work, but they set themselves up to fail. And these guys are really talented, and you wonder, like, why are you working for someone else? You can't find good, solid work anywhere. Really hard to find somebody to show up. If you just hung out your own shingle, no pun intended, started your own business, you'd make twice what you're making. Hell, half the crew would probably go work for you. Why are you chasing somebody else's dream? And the answer for most people is, well, I don't know. Well, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the expertise, we've been programmed. Born perfect, programmed to fail. Go to school, get a job, stay there, work the 40-40 plan, right? Work for 40 hours a week for 40 years. And then hopefully you can tiptoe it to death. That's what happens for most people. Unconsciously, they resist the very success that they claim that they want. And they don't know why. They don't know why they're doing it. Your money story isn't about numbers. It's not about how much is in the profit and loss column. It's not even about how much you make or how much you keep and how much. Has nothing to do with the numbers. Money doesn't even recognize numbers. Money is an idea. Money is an idea that operates as an exchange for value. It doesn't care how much it is. It's just exchanging the value. And if you don't value you, if you don't place a value on what you do, you will always ask for less value. And then you'll just automatically make less money. It's not about money. It's about self-identity. It's about self-image. See, you have a self-identity, and that self-identity is made up of two things. Your self-image, that's the image you hold of yourself, how you see you, and how you believe the world sees you. And then you have self-esteem. This is my personal self-regard, how I value me, and how I train the world to treat and value me. The composite of my self-image and my self-esteem, the composite of that creates a self-belief, a self-identity. And most salespeople are trying to grow their income without doing the work to really, I hate to say this word, but I'm going to say it, heal the beliefs that reject it. It sounds new agey, sounds touchy-feely, like maybe we should, light a candle and sing a chant, heal our beliefs. But that's what it is. In the book, The True Believers, Eric Hoffer wrote this. Eric Hoffer was one of the most prolific writers on human behavior, success, and achievement, like why we do the things we do and why we don't do some of the things we would really love to do. And in that book, he says this. He says that no matter what your achievements may be, like doesn't matter how good you've been in the past, no matter what your achievements may be, we think well of ourselves. We think well of ourselves only in rare moments. That within us, we have an internal judge that keeps a book of our transgressions, of our failures, all the things we've ever done that we believe were wrong, of all the bad things. And then he said something really powerful. He said, and we need other people to bear witness against the judge who keeps this book of our transgressions and our failures and our limiting beliefs. We need other people to convince us that we're not as bad as we believe we are. I think if you're hurting yourself, if you're sabotaging your future, if you're saying things to you that you would never let another person say to you, if you're being cheated and robbed, maybe you do need to heal. Maybe that is the word. Maybe it is about healing the beliefs that reject our true potential. Maybe that's what it is. I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen salespeople run incredible calls, and then just as they're getting ready for the close, they downshift into some low gear because the number feels too big. They're not scared of the client. They're scared of the success that will come if the client actually says yes. Because if the client says yes and they do really well, the image of themselves and how they've seen themselves dies. This is what Paul talked about in the book of Romans. It's a renewal of your mind. And for most people, the pain of that old life dying, the pain of all the stories and all the attachments. You see, when I had to actually start taking responsibility for my life and for my results, I could no longer run around and tell the sad little story of Paul, the little abused boy. I could no longer talk about how, my big evil mom. I couldn't talk about the unfair injustice of, the school system, because none of that matters. If you're going to step in as an adult now and take total responsibility, so what about the past? Past doesn't equal the future. And in the big scheme of things, what happened to me was nothing compared to what happens to most people who are, in abusive homes. There's kids that grow up in far worse conditions than I ever had it. And so at some point in time, that story has to die. And again, I don't know if it's that they're scared of success, but they're scared of the change that comes with it. Some of what comes with it is the increased expectation of other people. I remember when I was growing my one business, we had done 10 million. I doubled the business the next year to 20 million. And man, did I feel the weight of the expectation. Like, oh, wow. Like, what's he going to do next? How big's this thing going to go? That pressure and like, what will they think of me? Do I have to go from 10 to 20, do I have to go to 40? Like if I don't hit 40 million, did I fail? What will people think of me? And I was in my head. No matter what our achievements may be, we think well of ourselves only in rare moments. I spent half of my life unconsciously working to prove that I was dumb and stupid. Not because that's what I wanted, but because that's what I believed. Even after I started to succeed, I would downplay it. I would discount it. I would disqualify my contribution. Oh, it was the team. Oh, it's an easy market. Oh, the marketing team did a great job. Because what I was trying to do was disqualify me because my self-identity hadn't caught up with my results yet. And consequently, what most people do is what I did, is that my results would begin to go down. I would create lower and lower and lower levels of success and achievement to match my self-image that hadn't grown up to my, lucky streak. Isn't it interesting? Particularly in the car sales industry. You go to a car dealership and man, car dealerships are tough. The auto industry is tough. Everything is measured. Everything matters. They know, like nobody knows their business better than the auto industry. And in almost every single dealership, I'd bet $1,000 that in any legitimate dealership you go into, there is a results board for sales that is current and a wall of plaques that honors the past achievements. So you can go into a car dealership on any given day, you find out where the sales manager is, and I bet there's a big whiteboard that has every salesperson's name, today's date, and a list of what's sold, what they've sold, what their results are, what their numbers are, what their pipeline looks in. And then if you go over to the wall, you'll see, last year's, January salesperson of the month, February salesperson of the month. What's interesting is every once in a while you'll see, okay, geez, Jim was number one in January, and then he was number one in February, and then he was in March, and then not in April, not in May, not in June, not in July, not in August. But hold on, Jim won he was number one for the whole first quarter. Like he had done more business in his first quarter than he had done more than he did half the year last year. He was on his way to doubling, maybe tripling. And then all of a sudden, he fell off the face of the earth. He missed deals. He dropped the ball. He didn't get the paperwork right. He didn't run the credit check right. He got the upsell wrong. And it's like, Jim, you were doing so great. I know. What happened? I don't know. But you won January, February, March. I mean, you win, like last April was like your best month last year. This was a layup. Yeah, I don't know what happened. And he's not lying. And it's not like he's intentionally not trying. He's not lying or trying. I mean, he is failing because the cybernetic mechanism, the control mechanism, like the thermostat is the mechanism that controls the temperature. The thermometer tells you what the temperature is. Your self-belief is your thermostat. If Jim's set to making $125,000 a year, that's where he's set. He may start to outpace that. He may all of a sudden be pacing for 175, 180. And it's like, oh my goodness, here we go. But then, just like a thermostat works, it measures the deviation from the set goal. So in my house, the temperature set at 72. If that temperature drops or increases, the whole system changes. So if one of my boys leaves the door open and warm air starts to come in, and all of a sudden the temperature goes up to 74, 75, 76, as soon as it starts to rise, boom, a message is sent through the wiring system of the house. The blower is turned on, the fan is turned on, Freon gas is released, and cold air starts to pump out at every single opening we have. Every vent in the house starts to pump cold air until the thermometer drops to 72 and the thermostat reads the thermometer setting and says, okay, that matches the programming, and it stops. You have a cybernetic mechanism in you. You want to know what you're programmed to believe you're worth? Look at your results. Go back to last April and look at your tax return. That'll tell you what you believe you're worth. That'll tell you exactly what you believe your value is. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Results don't lie. And if you start to outproduce that number, or if you fall below that number, what happens? Your self-image measures the deviation, says, hold it, we're doing too good. We're not supposed to be this far ahead. You're not going to be able to sustain that. You've never been up here. And then we sabotage your behavior. Or, like Jim falls off the face of the earth, he's doing great January, February, March, he's going up. What happens? Cybernetic mechanism, his self-image catches the deviation from his set goal. Boom! He overcorrects. He doesn't get on the board in April, May, June, July, August, September. Next thing you know, in October, boop, there's Jim's face again. Why? Because he had gone too far down now. He overcorrected. See, my results would decrease again and again and again to match my old self-image until I changed it. Like if you feel guilty around receiving money, you'll try to deserve your way to wealth. Usually by overworking, overgiving, overcomplicating your business. See, like when we have guilt attached to our success and achievement, and trust me, guilt comes in multiple layers of frequency, multiple levels of awareness. Just like there are different types of grief, there is different types of guilt. But the belief system that you hold and I hold around guilt is probably the same. And that is, guilty people should be punished. And so if you see yourself as guilty for making more money, and somehow because you've made more and you've created some kind of an environment that demands somebody else by law must make less. It's like somehow the universe isn't abundant enough to have you both be wealthy. This is what most people believe. They believe that the only way somebody got rich is by making other people poor. It makes no sense if you really start to think about it. What, the universe is somehow limited in its ability. God is somehow limited in his ability to create abundance for everyone. He has to create a universe in which there's haves and have-nots. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And so, like, if you believe that, and then you see yourself as, you feel guilt for being successful, guilty people need punished. You believe that too. And who better to punish you than you? Who better to hurt you than you? Now look, before you go any further, I want you to download the Belief Upgrade Guide. This is the mindset tool that I've used to create every single major shift in my sales career. And it's built for one purpose: to help you align your inner world, your inner self-belief with the results that you know you're capable of. You're not stuck because you lack skill. You're not stuck because you're a bad person. And you're not stuck because you don't deserve what it is you want. You're stuck because your belief system can't buy into what I just said. Your belief system can't carry the weight of your next level of achievement. So this guide shows you how to rewire your thinking. It's going to walk you through 10 identity level shifts that unlock peak performance. And it's going to challenge these old beliefs. It's going to challenge what old belief holds you back and what holds you back from taking the action that you know you want and need to take. And it's going to help you anchor new patterns of belief and behavior that will actually stick. If you want something more than just insight, if you want more than just information, this is, I hope this video is entertaining and educational, but it's absolutely worthless as a tool of transformation if you don't apply it, if you don't begin to do the work. I would have wasted my time teaching, and you would have wasted your time listening. If you want real transformation, this is where it starts. So the link, my team put it right there in the description. It can't be any easier. Grab it now and then come back, because we're just getting to kind of what I believe is the good part. Okay? See, most salespeople set goals based on what they want to have, what they want to have. They want more income. They want more clients. They want more freedom, without ever asking, who do they need to be in order to create and then hold on to that reality? So we have kind of all these outcome goals, all these outcome kind of visions, but we never really seem to put ourselves in the middle of that vision. Again, your self-concept, this is your self-belief, your self-esteem, leads the way to the corresponding results that you create, to the behaviors that create your results. See, the salesperson who leads with conviction, with clarity, with confidence, they're not lucky. They're intentionally creating certainty. And they're doing that because they've done the inner work that make their default setting in harmony with who they want to be, in harmony with success and achievement. Now, here's the unfair part. Some people, didn't grow up at 430 Coolidge Avenue like I did. Some people didn't grow up in poverty. Some people didn't grow up in an environment where they were abused. Some people didn't grow up in an environment where they were put down. Some people didn't grow up in an environment where, they expected very little of themselves. Some people grew up in a loving home. Some people grew up in a loving home where they were encouraged and they were nurtured and their parents believed in themselves and would read to them and tell them that they were great. And some people made it out of childhood undamaged and start off with this great self-image. But that if that's not your picture, like if you didn't grow up in the Leave It to Beaver household like I did, I grew up in the Munsters, okay? I grew up in where it was kind of ugly. If you grew up in poverty consciousness, if you grew up where there was struggle financially, if the talking about money was how little you had, then chances are you've got to do some work. Now, that may not be fair, but hey, those are the cards you're dealt. And I'm just suggesting that you don't have to play the cards you're dealt. You can take the cards you were dealt, throw them back to the center of the table, and say to life, give me a new hand. But you've got to do that work. See, you can't hustle your way past your own nervous system. You can't hustle your way past a negative belief system. You can't outwork that. Like if your subconscious mind still thinks that success is unsafe for you, if your subconscious mind still holds on to beliefs that you're unworthy or it doesn't fit who you are, or that if you get ahead, you're actually hurting other people because you're taking more than your fair share, you don't want to be one of those people, this old identity will keep you trapped. You have no hope of outproducing that belief system and what that belief system will create. No hope. It's just the way it is. This isn't even like psychology. This is universal law. You can't like if you are programmed at this frequency, I'm sorry. You do not operate at this frequency. Now, you may from time to time pop up and raise your level of awareness to be in tune with what it is that you want for a short period of time. But just like Jim, our salesperson, bump, you'll go right back down. You don't get what you want. You get who you believe you are. And this is, I think for most people, the struggle here is that it seems like it's taking forever. This is why change feels slow, because you're not just learning a new skill. You're not like, it's not like you can read about self-belief and then after you read it and understand it, you can change it. That's a big frustrating thing because there's lots of educated people on the topic who have terrible self-images. They know all about it. They can teach it. They can talk the game. But then you look at their results and you think, how's that showing up in their life? You can't just unlearn your old self. You have to do the work. And so when you finally release this identity that's attached to scarcity, that's attached to poverty consciousness, that's attached to struggle, that's attached to all these limiting beliefs, you stop chasing success and you actually become a person who just naturally attracts it, who just naturally sets up the conditions and circumstances for it to happen. When I'm mentoring somebody, I'll often say, I don't know that you can make something happen, but you can make something welcome in your life. You can create the conditions and circumstances in order for it to happen. See, rewiring your beliefs isn't a one-time mindset shift. It's a process of emotional repetition. This is like intentionally over and over and over again, building your identity the same way your limiting belief was created. Like mine, over and over and over again. You're dumb, you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything. Who do you think you are? We don't have the money. See, you have to intentionally become the vibrational match for the future you want. Not just intellectually understand it, but I'm talking about emotionally at the deepest subconscious level, because emotion is energy. Emotion, it's what drives behavior. That's why sales is always emotion. People always buy on emotion and justify it with logic. See, one of the first people who helped me rewire my thinking was a guy by the name of Patrick Hayes. He was a retired trader on Wall Street, and he gave me a copy of the book. I'll have my team put a copy of the cover of the book in a slide so you can see what it looks like. Now, when he gave me the book, it was brand new. So the picture you're looking at right now on the screen shows a beat up book. It's because I've read the book thousands of times. And when he gave me Think and Grow Rich, he didn't just give me the book. He mentored me through it. He taught me that the version of me that I wanted to become was already there. I just had to first find him and then believe in myself so that I could see it. And so that I could see that identity. You already have everything that's necessary. But if you lack the awareness, what good is having it? See, most people, you know this, you see people with potential. It's not that they don't have the potential. It's that they don't have the awareness of the potential. See, your results are not a reflection of your potential. Your results are not a reflection of what you can do. Your results are a reflection of what you believe you can do. The awareness you have of what you can do. Your results reflect the awareness of your potential. And as you become more aware of your infinite potential, all of a sudden you begin to export that which you are aware of. But awareness has to come first. You have to see it to believe it. See, the most powerful way to rewire your beliefs is to create a daily pattern of mental rehearsal. A daily pattern. See, this means seeing yourself succeed in the exact moments where you've historically pulled back. That's why it's important that you record your calls. See, when it's time to ask for the sale, most people hold back. When it's time to talk about money, this is where people hold back. When it's time for you to step in and own your own value and claim yourself as an authority, this is where people step back. And it's simply because they've never visualized themselves success. So you're practicing how it feels in your body to become the version that already lives in this reality. Calm, clear, convicted, and certain. The second way to rewire your beliefs is through what I call evidence stacking. So what you're looking to do is you're looking every single day to collect daily proof that your new identity is taking root. So you track the moments that you hold your price. You track the calls where you stay present instead of reactive. You be intentional about seeing the wins for yourself. And this is hard for most people. Most people have been told, don't think highly of yourself. That's arrogance. It's not arrogance. It's awareness. So when you find yourself doing the right things, thinking the right things, believing the right things, stack the wins, even the small ones, because the universe doesn't recognize big or small. Like the room you're in right now, if we were to ask the universe, is this room big or small? The universe says this room just is. It just is. It's neither big nor small. What makes it big or small is what I believe and compare it to. If I compare my studio right now to the grand ballroom at the Breakers Hotel, this is small. If I compare it to, maybe my bathroom, this might be large. See, until your subconscious mind starts to see a new pattern, it will continue to operate on the old one. But the minute that it starts to see a new pattern developing as normal, it begins to make a shift. And finally, you have to really choose your environment wisely. You will not rewire your identity if you're surrounded by people committed to playing small. So you have to put yourself in rooms where you are the new standard barrier, where you're holding the baseline, where your self-image is built by proximity to what you really desire, where possibility is really molded, not just talked about. but really lived. I've always said, like, if you're the wealthiest person in your group, get a new group. If you're the smartest person, get a new group. If you're the most successful, get a new group. Look, your income will never rise higher than the identity you're willing to embody and embrace. So stop trying to outwork your programming. Stop trying to be busy. It doesn't work. Start becoming the version of you who already lives in the future that you want. This isn't mumbo jumbo new age stuff. And this certainly isn't just positive thinking hype. If you looked at my results, I started in 1988, a small company called At Your Service Commercial Cleaning, service with the white glove touch, with $200 as a high school dropout with no experience. I sit now, at the time of this recording, I'm 6 months away from being 60 years old. Right now, it's 2025. It's a long journey of time. And where I sit right now is probably one of the wealthiest. If it's not the wealthiest, it's one of the top 3 or 4 wealthiest zip codes in the country. I've generated not millions, but tens of millions of dollars of net worth. Net worth. I travel all over the world. I live a really beautiful, beautiful life. But I created that life. It's not it's not the normal story of a high school dropout. Most high school dropouts do not have a net worth of tens of millions of dollars. See, there's no amount of positive thinking hype. There's no amount of new age mumbo jumbo that could create that. By their fruit, you know them. It's about aligning your self-image with the truth of your infinite potential. Now look, if anything that I shared today resonates with you, don't walk away with the insight. That's not the win. Walk away with the tool that helps you take action. Click on that link. Download the belief upgrade. Look, in this guide, if there's a part of you that hasn't done this yet, if you've been watching this and you haven't downloaded that, I'm going to suggest that the reason why you haven't is because this part of you knows that if you did, you might grow. If you haven't downloaded this guide, I'm suggesting that this is you quietly sabotaging yourself, wrapped up in the reasoning that says, well, all he wants is my email address, or all he's going to do is try to sell me. Who the hell cares? Who cares if I have your email address? Who cares if I'm trying to sell you? See, if there's one idea in this guide that could help you, if there's one idea that could give you an edge, why wouldn't you take it? And why wouldn't, if I was trying to sell you, why wouldn't you buy? Why wouldn't you invest in you? I'm not asking you to buy a couch or a TV. I'm asking you to invest in you. See, this guide is a roadmap for rewiring your self-concept so that you can sell, so that you can lead, so that you can perform from a very strong self-concept rather than insecurity and struggle. Now, look, you're going to find the link below. Get it now. And then I want you to come right back and I want you to watch the next video, 40 brutal truths that I wish I knew when I was in my 20s. Remember, that's when I started my company. It's raw, it's honest, and it's going to challenge the way you think about growth. I'll see you there.